Hello, so I am here answering the question of what is the Eucharist, which is also known as Holy Communion. Well, communion is a very important tradition for us Christians. Jesus introduced the idea of communion to his disciples at the first Easter, so just before he went to the cross. They were all sitting down for a meal, which was the Last Supper. And Jesus told his disciples a story, and he used food and drink from the table to help teach them this lesson. So Jesus picked up a loaf of bread and broke it and said, "This is my body, which will be broken for you." And then he picked up the cup and said, "This is my blood, which will be spilled for you." Now the disciples were quite confused here, as I can assume you would be too. I mean, if I was sat at a table and someone said to me that bread was their body and some wine was their blood, I would be thinking, what? But Jesus was talking about this to represent what was about to happen to him. Jesus was warning them about what was coming. Jesus was going to be arrested, put in jail, beaten and put on a cross. But Jesus wanted the disciples to understand why this needed to happen. It had to happen so that Jesus could pay for all of our sins, and he was choosing to do it for our sake. So communion simply represents the act that Jesus did for us. So at church, when we break bread and eat it, or sometimes have crackers, we're using it to remember that Christ on the cross had his body broken for our sake. And the cup of wine is used to represent that Jesus had his blood spilt so that we could have our sins forgiven. So we simply take communion to remember his sacrifice for us. So communion is a really special thing for Christians, and we do it to remember what Jesus did for us on the cross and why he did it. And it also helps us to remember that Christ is at the centre of all that we believe in.